News everywhere.
When we get into this kind of denialism, then I think that it's really harmful to survivors.
How can they say they didn't know? You know, they were right there.
Former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, who was also Minister of Indian Affairs between 1968 and 1974, is now under fire for controversial comments he made comparing his time at boarding school to the plight of residential school children. In two separate interviews Sunday, talking about his new book, Chrétien was asked about his role in Canada's residential school. He drew a comparison to his time at a boarding school to residential schools when he was fed baked beans and oatmeal, saying it was hard to live there. Martina Fisher, who attended Assiniboia Residential School in Winnipeg from 1969 to 1973, says there's no comparison here.
Children were just left there to be lonesome, you know, until it was time for them to maybe visit a family once or twice a year, or even none at all.
KATHERINE LEGRANGE, director of 60s Scoop Legacy of Canada, says Chrétien doesn't want acknowledgement that he had a role in the system.
It's easier to just, sweep it under the rug and not acknowledge that he had a role in that and a responsibility to these students and their families to keep them safe.
Chrétien said while in government, he knew residential schools existed and how difficult they would have been. He also said he was unaware during his time in government of residential school abuse.
I am well aware of letters that were written to him. I know that there was documents written to him. There was a wide variety of actual paperwork that was made available to him to be well aware. I think that he needs to apologize, and that it's obvious that he's completely misinformed.
Canada just had its first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation less than a month ago. University of Manitoba Indigenous Studies Assistant Professor Dr. Sean Carleton says more Canadians are wanting to put truth before reconciliation and learn about what happened in the schools. But Carleton says Chrétien's comments are nothing but misinformation.
And they are confusing. And they make people ask, well, what really did happen? And unfortunately, he makes a false equivalent between his private school boarding experience with residential schooling, which was very different, happened under very different circumstances, and the experiences were radically different.
It angers us. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that it had to go on this long.
We reached out to Chrétien for comment, but did not hear anything back in time for broadcast deadline. In Winnipeg, Alex, Karpa City News.